We're here at the Mobile Media Conference to talk about mobile advertising and how advertisers can take advantage of mobile platforms. Now, Peter, one of the big quandaries for advertisers on mobile is they have this opportunity to be increasingly relevant to consumers through location and behavioral ad targeting. How do they balance that with trying to avoid infringing on people's privacy and even becoming annoying to consumers?
That's actually a great question, and one that we think a lot about at Tapjoy. Obviously, there's a huge opportunity with mobile, but we don't want to create a situation where consumers are freaked out. In our case, our entire platform is opt-in. In fact, there's a double opt-in. And the way that works is the consumer's involved in their app, and they might want some more currency or coins in the game they're playing, and they actually raise their hand and say, I'm going to engage in some ads, and in exchange I'll get some of that currency. So they say the first step is wanting to look at ads, then they pick which brand is most relevant to them. So the entire process is opt-in, which we think is a much better model than an app environment where you've got pop-ups coming up and pre-roll and sort of a very annoying, interruptive app experience. Consumers really don't like these pop-up ads and banners, and they're very ineffective from a marketing perspective. This opt-in process really flips the whole thing and transitions the brand from being purely an advertiser to a sponsor of the content that the consumer wants. We think that's a great way to sort of skin the cat in mobile advertising, but it also addresses this creepy factor that you're talking about.
Is it hard to actually convince advertisers to take that kind of approach? Because for the last few decades, the whole process of advertising has been about very directly promoting how great you are as a brand. And now there's kind of this new level of trust that advertisers have to have with consumers, where they wait for them to opt in to some sort of content that they're offering or some sort of utility even that they're offering.
So there absolutely is an education process that has to happen, and it's something that we spend a lot of time on. You're right. Really since the dawn of advertising, it's been sold one way, on an impression-based or sort of a CPM model. And with the advent of smartphones and tablets and digital in general, really, but particularly with smartphones and tablets, since they're with us 24/7, there's an ability to know exactly what the consumer is doing and kind of get down to a performance level. So whereas with a TV ad, for example, there's very sophisticated models, but very inexact models to figure out, well, how many people watch this, and you kind of work your way down with some math to say how many people actually saw the ad. You've also got time shifting and DVRs and people going to the restroom, so that's a very inexact science. You contrast that to the way we sell a video advertisement. We'll only charge the advertiser if there's a completed view. So even if a consumer who started and stops it, we won't charge the advertiser. So a much more direct and sophisticated approach from our perspective on getting to an ROI. You need to use the tools that are at your disposal. We now have tremendous capabilities from the data coming back from smartphone and tablet users, but to your earlier point, we need to use them in a responsible way so that we're not sort of getting ahead of ourselves with consumers being uncomfortable with them being watched. You can look back to the early days of the internet and the web. I can remember when the first time I experienced Amazon, I was like, well, this is a little bit interesting. They know that I bought these other things, and at first it was curious. Now I love it. It's just part of the experience that I come to expect. And if we can deliver a better mobile experience by giving consumers advertisers that are relevant to them and that provide a value exchange for what they're doing, we think it's a win-win. The consumer loves it, the advertisers get higher retention and brand metrics, and the app publishers that we work with have an additional revenue stream that they can work with.
And it's almost like a complete mind shift in the kind of purpose of advertising in a way, and mobile is kind of helping to achieve that. Do you see that?
I think historically there was this attitude that, well, consumers will just like my ad because I spent a lot of time coming up with something clever. And lo and behold, we know that consumers really have better things to do than to pay attention to your ad. Now, nearly all the apps that are in the top grossing charts are free to play, so they're monetized via advertising. And so the consumer is very willing to engage in ads if you make it worth their while. So again, in our case, it proves that out. But to your point, it's exactly right. And it's not just getting coins in the game. There are other folks that we work with where you're getting movies or video content in exchange and engaging in ads. You might get communication minutes for your mobile device in exchange for watching ads or engaging in advertising messages, so you sort of refuel your phone. So all these are examples of that value exchange that we talked about, and we actually think this is the future of mobile, and you could even kind of imagine that it would be too difficult to see this in an interactive TV environment with IPTV, and when content sort of breaks the 22 minutes of advertising and 8 minutes of commercials, how's all that content going to be paid for? It's going to be people raising their hand and opting in for advertising.